breaking news this morning. Powerful storms in the Pacific Northwest now moving inland. Oregon and Washington state are still being battered after days of heavy rain, deadly floods, mudslides, and even a tornado.
And it is not over yet. Flood, rain, and snow advisories are posted from northern Washington state to central California. Let's get the latest now from David Begnaud, who is on a freshly snow-coated Mount Hood in Oregon. David, good morning.
Vanita, good morning from what is a beautiful Mount Hood, Oregon. There is another 2 feet of snow expected by Monday morning at this time. But there is another system rolling into the valley. What's beautiful in the mountains is making for a mess in the valley where they've had everything from hail to flooding to even a tornado. And now today, there's another threat of landslides. Almost a week's worth of rain sent rivers tumbling over their banks in Oregon. Dozens of cars were left submerged when the swollen Tualatin River near Portland cascaded into a scrapyard. The damage in the Pacific Northwest is adding up. At least $20 million worth in Oregon and Washington state, much of it to highways left impassable by landslides. The powerful storms are causing problems at sea. The Coast Guard has shut down all ports along a more than 500-mile stretch of Pacific coastline.
There really is a tornado.
Cleanup started on Friday in Battleground, Washington, where a day earlier, a rare tornado with winds of up to 100 miles per hour damaged 36 homes and a pair of businesses.
There's still water in areas. There's still standing water in some spots. There's quite a bit of insulation on the floor that had come in from where the ceiling caved in.
To the south, the Pacific Ocean churned up monstrous waves along California, some topping out at more than 25 feet.
It's very impressive. I actually drove down this road this morning and they actually hit my car, so that was really interesting.
While it's making driving on mountain roads difficult, snow delivered by the storm to California's Sierra Nevada mountains is a welcome sight after years of drought. Back in Oregon, you might say Christmas came early for ski resort operators who waited for snowfall like this all of last year and never got it.
There were other ski areas in the Northwest that didn't even open last year. This is the storm that puts the Northwest back on the map. We're on the top of the heat and snowfall in the country, and this is where we deserve to be. So this storm is a real blessing.
This morning, Washington State is cleaning up from a damaging tornado. It touched down Thursday in the city of Battleground, and crews worked through the night to clear the debris. The twister is the latest example of severe weather to hit the Pacific Northwest this week. David Begnaud is in Battleground, where dozens of homes are now damaged. David, good morning.
Good morning. It was an EF1 tornado that touched down at least twice over a 2-mile residential area. No one was hurt, but there was damage. Here at the county store where we are, this is a pretty large branch, and it went flying through a window like a spear, shattering glass while people were inside the building. Tornadoes in Washington state are rare, very rare. In fact, yesterday's was only the second one this year.
It's ripping whole trees up, dude.
Thursday's tornado-packed winds topping 104 miles per hour. It uprooted dozens of trees and snapped some nearly right in half.
It does appear a tornado did go through multiple trees down, multiple lines.
About 36 homes and a pair of businesses were damaged. Vanessa Easley works at a mini-mart.
The wind came through the store, pushed those front doors out, in, and back out, and then the water started pouring through the roof.
Wooden stakes sliced through one home like daggers. Andrew Yozamp says it took about 30 seconds for the storm to pass.
It looked like the Wizard of Oz out here. There was debris flying everywhere, trees flying down the road.
High winds, heavy rain, and hail have been pounding the Pacific Northwest for almost a week now. Some areas have been soaked with as much as 18 inches of water. Construction crews have been working around the clock to clear mud and dirt from landslides that have closed roads across Washington and Oregon. A normally 40-minute commute outside Portland took more than 3 hours Thursday. Some 550 miles south in California's Sierra Nevada mountains, it is snow that's snarling traffic. As much as 3 feet are forecast, putting plow drivers in overtime.
It went from blue skies to dark. It was like being inside of a clothes dryer with gravel inside.
In the Sierra Nevada, they could get another 2 feet of snow across Oregon and Washington. More rain is expected through Monday. Gail, if it's dry where you are, be glad.
And see this smile on my face? Yes, I'm very glad. Thank you, David. But feeling for the people there, certainly. It sure has been a rough week across the Pacific Northwest. Landslides, mudslides, and heavy flooding for many locations. In fact, the governor of Washington declaring a state of emergency on Wednesday. Look at what some of the roadways have contended with lately. Very dangerous travel conditions for some of those mountain overpasses. Now, we have had a brief lull in the heavy rainfall from Oregon into Washington, but that's going to change later today and into Friday. Another low pressure system set to bring rainfall to this area and even heavy rain for Northern California as well. We could experience another 2 to 4 inches of rain from Redding northward into the southern suburbs of Seattle. On top of that, we have large waves building across the Pacific Ocean. We time that with our coastal flooding, the big waves and high tides. That means we have the potential of more flooding right along the coastal regions, something we're going to monitor very closely.
Well, some Ocala residents are going to work a little sleepy this morning after they were forced out of their homes overnight. A sinkhole is wide open in the Okra neighborhood of Ocala. The 20-foot by 30-foot hole forced crews to evacuate homes as a precaution. Marion County Utilities claims a water main break caused the sinkhole. Water and power to the area is now turned off.
This video is guaranteed to make you say, whoa. Surveillance cameras catching the moment 2 buildings in China buckle and collapse due to a landslide. This happened in the Gansu province, which has been experiencing heavy rain. So take a look on the left side. You see a couple pieces falling into the street, and those motorists were still driving by. Then moments later, those buildings come down. So there were several pedestrians on that busy street. They're waving their hands. They're shouting to drivers to make them stop. Thankfully, they did. And the buildings, as you saw, came crashing down. Police ended up blocking off the dangerous area. And experts, by the way, are still monitoring the mountain involved to see whether or not it could wind up posing any more danger. This, again, just takes your breath away.
Yeah, sad scene in Solana Beach right now. Crews trying to remove a dead whale calf that washed on the shore this morning. 10 News reporter Joe Little has been out there all day. He joins us live now with people who were both upset and fascinated by the whale. Joe?
The wind has kicked into high gear here in Solana Beach, but this is where we've been all day with people along the railing here looking at something down on the shore that you just don't see every day.
They stood in driving rain to take a look. It was a shock for many people.
Oh my God.
Tim Runyon just moved here from Iowa.
So I've gotten a little bit used to the beach, but nothing quite like this. I can't believe that there's a whale on the beach.
San Diego lifeguards say this gray whale calf washed ashore around 7 this morning. They tied a black rope around its tail and anchored it to the rocks.
Unbelievable.
The powerful waves and the sheer size of the whale made it unsafe to move until low tide. A lifeguard said it's about 20 feet long and weighs at least a ton.
And you don't realize the size of that thing from up here. I hate acting like the tourist from out of town, but we don't get this much in Iowa. Fascinated by it, but yeah, sad, yeah.
Sad because the whale is just a baby, and the powerful waves tossed it back and forth on the beach.
Oh my God! That's literally a ton of whale rolling around.
The video is too disturbing to show you. Marine biologist guests the whale couldn't handle its first migration.
I've just never seen anything like it.
Now, they were able to lift that whale carcass onto a flatbed truck around 2:30 this afternoon, and I'm told by the marine biologist that it's on its way to a landfill. Reporting live in Solana Beach, Joe Little, 10 News.
9, 8, 7. After 19 years in construction, it's time to fire up Germany's revolutionary fusion machine. It's a tense moment. For physicists here at the Max Planck Institute, these flickering images are a milestone in the hunt for clean, boundless energy. Encased behind a 100-ton concrete wall is the colossal Stellarator. Only a handful of Stellarators have been attempted, few completed, but none as big or complex as the Wendelstein 7X. It's hoped this device will be a major game changer. Conventional nuclear power stations generate energy by splitting atoms, a process that requires an awful lot of fuel and produces a tremendous amount of hazardous waste. For a long time, scientists have believed nuclear fusion to be the greenest answer. But fusing together particles at extreme temperatures is no easy feat. The Stellarator takes its inspiration from the sun. A mixture of readily available gases are heated to 100 million degrees Celsius, so hot that atoms break apart, forming a soup of flowing ions and electrons. These particles are then accelerated, and when they collide, they generate immense energy. And in order to keep the superheated soup stable, it's suspended in a powerful magnetic cage. Physicists are now hoping to reach a point where they get more energy out than they need to put in. But that's still decades away.
Fusion is a promise, and it still needs research. We have the feeling it could work. And if we achieve everything to put all the elements together to make fusion happen, then we have an abundant, clean, CO2 neutral, climate neutral energy source.
After the Fukushima nuclear disaster in Japan, the German government promised to phase out all conventional nuclear power plants in the next 7 years. But how safe is nuclear fusion?
This is more like an ordinary fire. There's very little fuel in the machine, and to keep the fire going, one has to add fuel all the time. The gas in our experiment here weighs no more than a postage stamp. So even if it all burns up, nothing much happens.
As world leaders wrangle over the best way to tackle climate change, scientists here are toasting their achievements. A vital step closer towards the dream of limitless power. Niamh Barker, Al Jazeera, Greifswald.
The hacking group Anonymous is threatening Donald Trump over his proposal to ban Muslims from coming into the U.S. The warning came in a video the group posted online.
Donald Trump, it has come to our attention that you want to ban all Muslims to enter the United States. This policy is going to have a huge impact. This is what ISIS wants. The more Muslims feel sad, the more ISIS feel that they can recruit them. The more United States appears to be targeting Muslims, not just radical Muslims. You can be sure that ISIS would put that up on their social media campaign. Donald Trump, think twice before you speak anything. You have been warned, Mr. Donald Trump. We are Anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. Expect us.
Well, it seems Anonymous made good on its threat. The website for Trump Towers, TrumpTowerNewYork.com, was experiencing an outage today. An Anonymous affiliated Twitter handle claimed responsibility for disrupting the site.
Pakistan's military says it test-fired a surface-to-surface ballistic missile on Friday with a maximum range of 2,750 kilometers. According to an Army statement, the Shaheen-3 missile test was aimed at validating various design and technical parameters of the weapons system. It says the missile landed in the Arabian Sea, and the test was successful. The President and Prime Minister of Pakistan have congratulated the scientists and engineers who developed that missile.
First batch of German troops and aircraft have left for Turkey to join in the battle against Islamic State militants in Syria. 2 Tornado reconnaissance jets, 40 soldiers, and an A310 MRT aerial refueling jet have been sent to Turkey's southern Incirlik air base. The news follows action by German lawmakers last Friday to authorize the deployment of aircraft and up to 1,200 personnel to join international military operations against ISIL. The military action is in support of France in the wake of the Paris attacks. Berlin also said it would send a frigate to help guard the French aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle in the eastern Mediterranean. But Germany does not plan to take part in airstrikes, unlike France, the United States, and Britain.
Now, North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un claims the reclusive state has developed a hydrogen bomb, a step up from the less powerful atomic bomb. He's also declared that North Korea has become a nuclear weapon state. Outside experts, however, are not convinced. Why such dramatic statement by the North Korean leader? Why now? Our Kwon So-ah takes a shot at answering this question.
North Korea is in possession of a hydrogen bomb. That's what North Korean leader Kim Jong-un said, according to Pyongyang state media Thursday. The Korean Central News Agency said he made the remark during an inspection of an arms plant in Pyongyang. He was quoted as saying North Korea has managed to become a great nuclear power capable of defending the independence and dignity of the state. Experts say this is the first time Kim has ever mentioned a hydrogen bomb, as opposed to his more frequent statements on the regime's nuclear weapons capabilities. With the H-bomb, they believe the North is merely in the early stages of development.
The power of a hydrogen bomb is measured in megatons. Even advanced countries do not possess them. It will also be difficult to test them so close to China, as they will have to do it underground, but extremely deep, so that's also regarded as impossible.
A government official said there is no evidence on Pyongyang having developed nor having the technology to build an H-bomb, adding Kim's remarks seem to be words of rhetoric. Some say it could be the opening gambit ahead of a round of high-level inter-Korean talks on Friday.
The show of its military capabilities could be an indirect way of pressuring South Korea and a move to lead the talks.
Professor Kim also said the move could be seen as a way to manipulate the media or a gesture to start talks with the U.S. and the international community. Although the existence of an H-bomb in North Korea leaves room for doubt, the regime does appear to have made progress on its main missile launch site. According to the U.S. website 38 North, satellite imagery suggests construction of new propellant bunkers at a launch pad in the northwest of North Korea are close to completion. 38 North said this may indicate the end of a 3-year program to upgrade the site, which could mean Pyongyang could be ready to launch larger rockets by early next year. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
Thank you very much, Jisun, for that report. Now, the United States and Russia say they are skeptical about North Korea's recent claim that it possesses a hydrogen bomb. The White House says that while the destabilizing actions of the North Korean regime are worrisome, Kim Jong-un's claims are highly questionable. According to Seoul-based Yonhap news agency, U.S. think tanks, including 38 North and the Center for Non-Proliferation Studies, also have deep doubts about Pyongyang's capability to build a hydrogen bomb. They say North Korea appears to be using hydrogen bomb-building materials to enhance the power of its atomic bomb instead. Now, Russia has echoed both these views, saying the North's claims are likely nothing more than a bluff. Kremlin officials, noting that Kim has made similar false claims before, said it was literally impossible in this modern day to develop a hydrogen bomb without the world knowing first.
Some stunning new numbers from the Treasury Department shows just how much money ISIS makes selling oil. One official says that it could be up to $40 million a month. That is around $500 million a year. And the U.S. says Syria's government is one of the biggest buyers. Elizabeth Palmer is in London to look at how oil is changing the war against ISIS. Elizabeth, good morning.
Good morning. Well, it's a war that's being fought on many fronts, and one of the top new priorities is strangling ISIS's revenue. And right at the top of the list of financial targets is the oil business.
U.S. and coalition planes have now begun to bomb tankers full of oil sold by ISIS in Syria, part of an effort to cut off an estimated $40 million a month the group makes from petroleum sales. And in the cynical economics of war, some of that oil even goes to President Assad's government, ISIS's sworn enemy. Most of the oil fields in Syria are in ISIS-controlled territory. Once pumped, it's moved by tanker to be sold locally to buyers in regime-controlled Syria or smuggled over the border into Iraq and Turkey. The coalition began bombing ISIS refineries last year, and the Russians have now joined in, choosing oil-related bombing targets. That may have made a dent in ISIS's ability to supply oil clean enough to be used, but it didn't stop it. Matthew Phillips is with Bloomberg.
We overestimated, really, the damage that we did, the long-term damage, and underestimated their ability to kind of adapt to that.
Syrian locals simply set up crude refineries, basically cooking the oil in pits in the desert before selling it on to traders who get it to market. Attacks on what are technically ISIS-linked operations like this will inevitably kill innocent civilians who are simply working in it to survive.
And one more thought. While cutting off revenue is going to hurt ISIS, no question it won't bring the group to collapse. Solid numbers are really hard to come by, but the best estimates say that ISIS is making twice as much money on widespread what they call taxes on every person in business living under their control. Charlie?
More information on this now from our Omar Al-Saleh. He is in Izmar and he's been gathering more information. Omar, what else can you tell us?
Well, apparently the Russian surveillance ship was sailing off exactly 22 kilometers off a Greek island in the northern part of the Aegean Sea. And then the narration we have is coming from Russia so far. It says their surveillance ship tried to warn the approaching Turkish fishing vessel, but apparently it failed. Then they used some signals, and then they had to resort to what they call small arms fire to prevent the collision. This is an important development. It comes after the tensions, rising tensions between Russia and Turkey, and that's because Turkey shot down a Russian fighter jet on November 24th. Turkey said it violated its airspace. Now we have to wait and see what the Turks will say, but this is an important development, and it may well escalate further, not only diplomatically, but perhaps with some new sanctions, because Russia has already adopted a number of economic sanctions against Turkey.
All right, Omar Al-Saleh, this development in an already tense situation. Omar, thank you so much for that update. We'll continue to follow it.
Demonstration Saturday was called for by the umbrella group of Shiite militias in Iraq whose power rivals that of the Iraqi army. The protest was attended by militia leaders and some Shiite politicians. Turkey has had troops near Mosul since last year, but the arrival of additional troops last week sparked uproar in Baghdad. Ankara subsequently halted new deployments. On Friday, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan repeated that Turkey would not pull out troops already stationed in Iraq and that the training process in agreement with Iraq would continue.
Philadelphia, the FBI is investigating an incident of a pig's head being thrown at a mosque. I want to take a close look. Take a look at this with me. This is surveillance footage. Okay, you see it right there. That what they threw is a pig's head. It shows that truck driving slowly, tossing it out of the passenger side window. The mosque's caretaker discovered the pig's head when he came to work this morning. A lot of questions here. Why a pig's head? Pigs are considered unclean in the Muslim faith and are not eaten by practicing Muslims. You know, they don't eat pork. Let's bring in CNN's Boris Sanchez following the story. What are you learning? Any idea who did this? Why?
No idea exactly why. It's being investigated as a possible hate crime. The FBI obviously taking a close look at that video. Unfortunately, it's too dark to see who might have been driving the car, who might have been the passenger that tossed it out of the car. The video actually shows the pickup passing by the mosque shortly before something was tossed from the car. Then it passes by again, and that's when something was thrown from it. It is worth noting, I spoke to someone at the mosque who told me that a month ago, right after the Paris attacks, they received a threatening voicemail. That voicemail has been passed along to the FBI and local authorities. The mosque says they're complying with them, hoping to get to the bottom of what happened yesterday.
When you look at what I can't imagine how upset and hurt the people at the mosque are. What are they saying in response?
They're actually being defiant. I asked one of the spokespeople at the mosque if they were scared. He told me no, absolutely not. This is our community and nothing is going to happen to us. He says they're in a very tolerant, very diverse part of Philadelphia, and that they refuse to be intimidated. So obviously this isn't something that has shaken them. He says that nothing like that had happened before. They had received phone calls previously, other threatening phone calls at other instances, but nothing like a pig's head being thrown at the wall.
And again, it's being investigated, FBI involved, as a hate crime.
New video shows the struggle between an officer and a suspect as police say the man grabbed for the officer's gun. It ended with police firing shots in the halls of a hospital. News 13's Lizzie Mitri shows you the tense moments caught on camera.
Dean, the officer had been with the DWI and car theft suspect for nearly an hour at the hospital, both of them talking calmly before the suspect made a sudden move that changed everything.
No, do not do that. Do not do that. Hey, call for somebody. Call for somebody.
Just a few minutes earlier, Farmington police officer David Rock is heard on lapel video warning Heriberto Nava Martinez.
Don't try and run or anything, okay?
Officer Rock went with the suspect to the San Juan Regional Medical Center 3 months ago after arresting him for DWI and car theft.
He was in an accident, ran into a fence.
And another car.
Oh, and another car.
It sounded like a head-on into another car.
He's moved to a wheelchair, and it appears the officer can't find anywhere to handcuff him.
Man, there's really nothing I can do, huh?
They head down the hall as the officer takes notes. That's when police say Nava Martinez tries to take the officer's gun.
Help! Help! He's... Stop! 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 You cannot go after my gun! Get down! Get down! Get down! Get down!
Even after Officer Rock fired a shot, the suspect doesn't get down.
No, get down!
2 more shots fired, and video shows Nava Martinez come at the officer again.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
A taser finally gets Nava Martinez on the ground.
4515! I need help. I need help in the hospital. I need help now.
Hospital staff responds as the officer processes what just happened.
He was trying to get my gun away from me. I should have known.
Farmington police say Nava Martinez was high on meth and marijuana. They say they are thankful for his recovery since the shooting. Dean, back to you.
Well, Zay, thank you. Farmington police say the officer followed procedure. State police investigated the case and forwarded it to the district attorney's office to determine if that shooting was justified.